Hi everyone, welcome. This session is called Keeping Interpretation Personal While Going Virtual. My name is Nikki Julien, my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm coming to you from Payson, Arizona, the traditional lands of the Western Apache. I am a certified interpretive guide, and I'm a certified interpretive guide trainer. You're environmental educators, so you're probably wondering, what is interpretation? What has it got to do with environmental education? And what do you mean by personal and virtual? We're going to mesh all that together. So a little housekeeping first. This is a 45-minute session. We're going to be watching some videos and talking about them. So if you're driving, please wait to watch this video later. You want to give it your full attention to watch the screen. So not safe to watch while driving. And if you're not driving, you're in a safe location. Fantastic. Let's get going. Let's have some fun. So crazy year, 2020, right? When we were forced to go without personal interaction, a sea change occurred in and it really raised the bar on how we connect personally. So this whole program is about don't miss that boat. First, we're gonna talk about though we're all in the same storm, we're not all in the same boat. So a little bit about interpretation. We're going to talk about the definition of that, and then really who are the players in this virtual interpretation? What does this mean? We're also going to talk about translating from the in-person to the virtual experience. It's not all smooth sailing. It's not a one-to-one. So we're going to talk about how to be captivating and measure engagements through some techniques. And then we're going to wrap up with talking about why is this important? Why ride this wave of this sea change? So what? Okay, so let's start out by talking about what is interpretation. So there's quite a bit of crossover between interpretation and environmental education. We're going to start with the idea that most environmental education is done in these non-formal venues. Yes, it can be done in formal K through 12 or even preschool through college venues. Of course, a lot of us do environmental education in a non-formal or informal way. Interpretation is the same. So with that said, let's look at this definition. Now, this definition is created by the National Association for Interpretation. I'm going to read it out to you. Interpretation is a purposeful approach to communication that facilitates meaningful, relevant, and inclusive experiences that deepen understanding, broaden perspectives, and inspire engagement with the world around us. Now, if you were going to unpack that, you do a lot of this in environmental education. You're purposeful. You use communication, you facilitate meaningful and inclusive experiences. Hopefully they're relevant experiences also, and they deepen understanding, perspectives, and inspire engagement with the world around us. Of course we do. In environmental education, we do that for natural resources. Interpretation not only does that for natural resources, we also do that for historical and cultural resources. So there's another difference between the two. And here's another kind of older definition. It's a communication process between interpreter and listener, forging emotional and intellectual connections while following principles. In environmental education, we don't focus as much on the emotional, although we do have that for sure. In interpretation, it's almost paramount is to have that emotional connection. And for environmental education, our principles are those excellence for guidelines in environmental education, and interpretation principles are from another source. Freeman Tilden's Interpreting Our Heritage is a good place to see those principles of interpretation. So that's kind of the difference. We'll start with that. Okay, let's also talk about what interpretation is not. So it's not a lecture. We can't just give those intellectual connections. That's what a lecture is. It gets boring. Most of the time people are coming to interpretation, they are non-captive audiences. This is non-formal and very informal. The last thing they want to do is be lectured at. On the opposite spectrum of that is it's not the circus either. Although there's a lot of entertainment that happens in interpretation, it's not all entertainment. If we only focus on the entertainment part, then there's really no depth to it, right? Okay, but it's also not propaganda. This is not a place for interpreters to stand up on their soapbox and tell them how to save the earth. So that's a little bit different than environmental education too. Hopefully in your environmental education, you're not going that deep into propaganda either. It's also not direct education. So we're not opening those skulls, pouring in stuff. It's not like a formal school. Like I said, these are mostly non-captive audiences. So hopefully by this time you're forming this idea of interpretation being a lot like storytelling, and it is at its very root. It's you telling your spouse how your day was, your child telling you how their day was, and connecting emotionally and intellectually to the information that they're telling you, the resource, but also to them as the interpreter. All right, I've got a couple videos, short videos for you that are going to help you to see what interpretation is and who does interpretation. Here's QR codes. You are welcome to photograph that QR code and go to the video on another device. I'm going to play it through Panopto. Fingers crossed that it'll work all right. And so the first one we're going to do is, what is interpretation? We're going to go to Joshua Tree National Park for that.
For me, interpretation is sharing with visitors an experience and helping them to form emotional connections and intellectual connections with everything that the park has to offer. Joshua Tree is a really unique park because it has those two distinct desert ecosystems, but it's also a really unique park because we're in the center of a lot of diverse urban areas. It's important to have different people to be able to speak on things because diversity brings more voices to the conversation. It's really what I'm looking for out of interpretive experiences, is kind of a give and take between ranger and visitor. If a person feels like they're participating and they're really connecting to the parks, they'll feel a sense of responsibility, of stewardship, a passionate connection to the nature that they got to be in when they were in the park. And it's a little bit deeper than a yes or no question. It's more of a feeling, an experience, a sense of wonder. My name is Nicole Dibble. I'm an interpretive park ranger at Joshua Tree National Park.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that video from Joshua Tree National Park on one interpreter's version of what interpretation is. We're going to go now to the National Association for Interpretation and hear from several different interpreters about their interpretation of interpretation and where they're at and what they do.
Interpretation is important because it allows us to build connections.
Interpretation is important because I don't want people to forget.
It helps a child's eyes light up at the sight of a new animal.
Interpretation provokes you to care about something you might not have otherwise.
It's connecting visitors to their surroundings.
Interpretation is important because it connects the past with the future, and at the same time, it connects the future with the past.
It helps people to care about the resources that we work every day to protect.
To help audiences better understand their world.
To facilitate the conservation and understanding of our heritage.
To ensure that people who live today don't forget about the meaning of the sacrifice of yesterday.
It not only helps us give people a sense of place, it gives them a sense of self.
Interpretation is important because it leads to the heart of everything, including your resources and your business.
The importance of interpretation is summed up in the words given to us by Tilden. We provoke, we relate, we reveal.
I like to use our history to help people understand that all the issues that we've dealt with in the past are still very much with us.
My name is Chris Smith. I work at the Duke Lemur Center.
My name is Jonathan Spring. I'm from New Zealand.
I am Emily Castel, and I am the Associate of Brittany American Cemetery.
My name is Luann Cadden, and I work for the Missouri Department of Conservation.
I'm Rick Morales. I'm the founder of Jungle Treks in Panama.
My name is Jess Corey, and I am the Curator of Education here at Los Angeles Zoo.
My name is Amy Erickson, and I work for Orange County Parks.
I'm Chip Lennox, NAI Region 10 Director and Principal of Cascade Interpretive Consulting.
Soy Marisol Mayorga, Professor of Interpretation in Costa Rica and currently a PhD student at Kansas State University.
My name is Toya Gervais, and I work for the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority in the Santa Monica Mountains.
My name is Jordan McGuinn, and I'm a park ranger for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at Tunnel Creek Lake in Manhattan, Kansas.
Jeffrey Arneo, Superintendent of the Brittany American Cemetery.
I'm Bill Weldon. I work at Colonial Williamsburg.
I am an interpreter.
I'm an interpreter.
I am 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 an interpreter.
I'm an interpreter.
I am an interpreter.
I'm an interpreter.
I am an interpreter.
Wasn't that awesome? We got to see where some interpreters work also. So some of you might be thinking, hey, I work in a place a lot like that. I work at a zoo, or I work at an aquarium, or I work at a venue that has environmental education. But now I'll think of myself as an interpreter also. Okay, we just watched these two awesome videos about interpreters, interpretation, where they were, so you have a really good understanding about interpretation now. But didn't you get the sense that you could do those things in person? You could take that jungle trek in Panama. You could go to the Vancouver Aquarium. You could go to the Phoenix Zoo. Then 2020 comes along, and we can't go to these places anymore. If these agencies just went dark and they closed their doors, they didn't do anything, they have to fire staff. They still have bills to pay. They still have their site. They still have maybe animals to take care of, collections they've got to take care of. How do they keep that money flowing in? How do they reopen again? How do they keep their mission relevant? A lot of them chose to do virtual interpretation. So here we are. Okay, so now we're going to take that virtual experience, make it good, but we're going to keep that personal touch. So let's talk about the virtual players in this. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the setting. We're not talking about in person. We're talking about virtual. Okay. So you're no longer there at the location. There's a few ways to do virtual interpretation. So one is live stream with verbal feedback. That's Zoom or Microsoft Teams. You get instant feedback. There's still the filter there somewhere else. There's still the computer screen in front of you, so it's virtual, but you get that for instant feedback. We're not going to talk about that today. Okay, the other way you can do it, you can live stream over something like Facebook or Instagram, right? You don't get verbal feedback, but you get some real-time comments. We're also not going to talk about that today. I only have 45 minutes. We're running out of time. What we're going to talk about specifically is pre-recorded videos. In other words, you record a video, and then it could be hours, days, weeks, or months before the audience sees that video. So there is a total time disconnect. That's specifically what we're going to be talking about for this session today. And I could talk about it for hours. Don't have very much time left. Okay, so some other virtual players, and this is the interpreter and the audience. So this is where that personal interpretation comes from. So they're not looking at an exhibit. They're not reading an article. There's a person. Here I am, right? Jazz hands. Me, I'm the interpreter. I'm interpreting virtual interpretation. You, who have registered for the Arizona Association for Environmental Education virtual conference, are my audience. Together, we are having this experience. And I know it's 10 days before you will watch this video, but I am going to make it hopefully interesting enough that we are creating a shared experience. Yay! That's us together. At some point, you are going to be doing a virtual presentation. You might have already done some. You will be the interpreter. You've got an audience that might be kids going on a virtual field trip. It might be families. It might be people from Germany. They could be anywhere, right? It can be anytime. You're going to create a shared experience with them. That makes it way more interesting. The other part of being the virtual player is the content or the resource. So we're going to talk about those. All right, so that was totally cool. We have now talked about what interpretation is, who does it, what happens, how it's different, a little bit different than environmental education. We're talked about the virtual players. Now what we're going to do is, this is the fun part, we're going to learn some techniques for doing high quality personal virtual interpretation. So how we're going to do this is, I've got another couple videos for us. The first one is from Arches National Park. They're going to be talking about little microscopic creatures. I'm going to have you watch the video in the entire length through. It's about 3 minutes long. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to play the video over again. I'm going to play it without sound, and I'm going to point out some stuff specifically in that video that you can do as well.
Desert wildlife has to be pretty tough to survive, and potholes like this are a perfect example. This is a temporary habitat. It only fills with water when it rains, but it is a full ecosystem. There are creatures in here like fairy shrimp or tadpole shrimp. Their entire life cycle is only about 2 weeks. And then they drop their eggs, which settle down into the sand at the bottom. So when the whole pothole dries up, it's just waiting for the next rain. Tardigrades do it too, these little microscopic creatures that swim around in the water. When the water starts to evaporate, they react. They'll push all the liquid out of their bodies and shrink down to this dried out little husk that then can sit in sand for decades, if necessary, waiting for the conditions to get better again. So most of the time, this habitat isn't here. What's here is the potential for that future life. So if you see a depression like this when you're hiking, even when it's dry, look for things like the black staining around it to indicate it might hold water. If you see that, just walk around to protect this life that's waiting. One of the strangest things visitors might hear when they come to an area like Moab is that the dirt is alive. These bumpy, dark patches are called biological soil crust, and it's an entire ecosystem, a whole community of microscopic creatures stabilizing the soil surface. Without this 2 to 5 centimeter layer, it would just be blowing sand. And plants can't really survive in that, and the animals need the plants to survive. So this soil crust is absolutely essential to have a fully functioning ecosystem out here. If you get to see this, take the opportunity to look at it up close. It's pretty incredible. You can see the little fibers sometimes that are really holding the structure together. And it takes over 100 years to establish a community like this. It only takes a second of a footprint to destroy that. But you could choose to walk past it and preserve this really fragile environment that is part of the greater ecosystem of the desert.
There's no place in America that is like this. We want to make sure that we are preserving these parks for future generations. It's up to each and every one of us to personally be responsible for the conservation of these parks.
All right, now we're playing this video again without sound. I'm going to point out some stuff that's going on in this video that make it a really good personal interpretation in a virtual format. Now, first of all, we've got some absolutely stunning images that really helps. Professionally done, of course, is wonderful. We're also going to be talking about a low-tech version here in a little bit. So what we've got is a real person, not just somebody on the side of the screen, not just the little window, but they are prominently featured in the screen. But she also has this dynamic landscape behind us. So we're seeing her smile, we're seeing her welcoming attitude, but we're also seeing this amazing, beautiful background. Live animals are great. She's not on the screen the whole time. But we're seeing how dynamic she is, how dynamic she's trying to tell about these microscopic creatures. So sometimes it's a lot easier to put in a video of those creatures rather than trying to take that video and have you and the video going on at the same time. So that's totally okay. Photographs are also, it's a lot better to use a photograph or a video than it is to try to show the object really close to the screen and have it out of focus. So this is fantastic here. Now, another thing that's going on through this whole thing is that there's a lot of shifts from different screens. We're going back and forth from a wide shot of her closer in, video of the different types of animals. So we're mixing it up a lot and keeping it moving. Super, super important. There's also some wonderful tech that's going on here. She is mic'd up. The lighting is fantastic. They're using good equipment. We're going to talk about how to get good equipment, even if you don't have much of a budget. She's also reducing the density and speed of her talking. So she's talking in a slow, interesting manner. It's usually a lot slower than we think. I do this all the time too. I talk a little bit too fast, and interspersing this with some pictures of place. So again, this is with an audience in mind that maybe has never been to Arches National Park before. And they're doing a fantastic job of showing what this landscape looks like. So we're getting a real sense for this place, but it's through this personal connection that we're really excited about. And she's not talking about herself, but she has placed herself in this situation. So there's this personal guide that's taking you through this. And again, it ends with gorgeous pictures again. There's some branding that's going to go on with this video during the exit. And this is also a short video. It's 3 minutes and 26 seconds, something like this. Keeping it short. Shorter is way better on social media. If people know it's only going to be a few minutes long, they tend to watch it more. So somebody, in South America, Germany, Africa, thinking about coming to the United States could watch this and go, this place is beautiful. I want to go there. Maybe it's not the content that's very interesting to them. Maybe they're not all that concerned about the micro creatures, but this video is then able to get that content out as well. A little bit of how to protect the ecosystem, a little bit about why it's important, and hey, it's beautiful. You're going to love it here. Because we say so. We are social creatures. We're really influenced by the modeling of other people. So we've got 2 wonderful interpreters in this video. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at a different video. This next video I'm going to show you is a more low-tech version put out by the California State Parks. Now, California State Parks, I'm just in awe of what they've done in the last year. Just incredible work. Even though their parks closed, they retained quite a bit of their interpretive staff, and they were tasked with coming up with virtual engagements. How do you keep engaging people when they can't actually come to the park? How do we keep our park open? How do we keep it relevant? And it's pretty amazing stuff that they put out. So, but for this video, it's quite a bit longer. I'm going to be taking chunks out of it, so you'll see some discontinuation of it. But I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play the sound. I'm going to talk right over it. Because the content isn't necessarily as important as the different engagement techniques that he uses. Okay, so like I said, this is a more low-tech version. You'll see that this ranger is the star of the show, the director of the show, and the producer of the show all in one. For many of us, that's kind of how we have to work. So he'll use a variety of different tech in this. I don't know if he's mic'd up. Maybe he has a at least right now at the beginning, probably not. He could be doing something like I am right now, which is using Panopto or Zoom to record this initial discussion, or it could be just the phone, propped up on the desk, which is acceptable also. So what he's going to be talking about is nature journaling. You'll see that kind of coming around. He's doing an introduction now. Again, this is all him right now. He's talking quite a bit. He's also telling a little bit about his personal journey, what he enjoys about this, that the book came to him from several other people, that he got into nature journaling last year. So he's telling a little bit more about not only this resource of nature journaling, but his emotional connection to it as a, as a modeling for hopefully making an emotional connection with the audience as well. He's showing off the pictures, and like I said, this is pretty low tech. One of the things I heard from California State Parks when they were talking about this is that, of course, there is a lot of learning. There's a major learning curve in doing this. The first couple of videos were difficult for them to do. They didn't know what they were doing. I've heard from several different parks and several different park rangers from the California State Parks. But what they really had was the support of their administration, their bosses, their agencies to take that time and do this. And it's really quite endearing. Even you'll see, even low tech, it's pretty endearing. You really get this chance to really meet this person, to think that, oh, I could go to this park that's in my neighborhood or my city or just a couple hours up the road and see this actual person. It's a little more raw. It's a little bit more accessible, so it doesn't have to be really high tech. Like I said, this person may not be using anything more than a smartphone to be able to be doing this. Let's see. But another thing that's happening with this video right now is he's very animated. He's talking, he's showing the pictures. He's talking about his journey. You can see some hand motions. So, every time something moves on the screen, our eye catches it. So the more we can move around the screen, the more interesting it is.
Hey friends, I made it to Los Gatos Creek, and I apologize if you hear some background noise. We are next to the highway. Okay,
so he's mentioning some noises. Very important to pay attention to, what kind of noises you have in the background. So that's part of the tech work that you need to do. This is a really great time to get mic'd up because of those background noises, because you're a little farther from the phone or the video camera. It looks like he's using a selfie stick and a smartphone. Pretty low tech here for sure. Okay, so now he started to do the activity. Part of it was observation. So doing activities with your visitor is a lot of fun and totally doable. There's some things to think about. One is that they are, they can be part of the camera can be part of the audience. So he's set that camera up so that we are seeing a lot of the different landscape. We can encourage our visitors to, hey, pause and what kind of things do you see, or draw this. They can participate in the activity while it's going on. You can also, if you have a cameraman, that cameraman can be the audience and be looking for different types of rocks. Just like this video here, looking into a container of mud and rocks that you've picked up. Make sure they're either in focus or you photograph them separately and edit that in. Okay, so for this next part, you're also going to see him moving a little bit faster. So feel free, to set the pace of your videos. If you're doing something that they've already seen before and you need to save up some time, like I said, shorter is better. You can put your video on a faster pace. And then here's something coming up that I want you to pay attention to also, is that he's going to be using objects that are common to find or common to understand. So if we're showing something that they've never seen before, it's a little bit harder to get the sense of what it is. We often show people like the real prop when we're in person. So this is a way, showing something that is common to everyone's experience. Colored pencils, a clam, these are common items. He's going to show an acorn in just a minute. Again, a common item. He's not picking up something that's really, really strange that we need to see for a longer period of time. And I would say for sensory, anything sensory, whether it's visual, whether you're talking about a smell or a sound, use the most common thing you possibly can. Because it's hard to make that connection through the video. The more common it is, the more people will go, oh yeah, I recognize what that is. That's relevant to my experience. Okay, so he's come back to the office now. Just like how he started, we're looking at this journal a little bit closer. kind of creates a bookend, kind of a continuity. So he's giving a review of this page. It really is inviting. It connects people to it. Now, here's the really important part. I'm going to pause this actually. So, oops, I paused it a little too soon. At the end of your video, make sure to brand it. Tell us who you are. Tell us what agency you're with. Tell us where you are. You have a worldwide audience with this, so make sure you're telling the town or the closest town, the name of the agency, the park that you're at, the state it's located in, the country you're in. We can get people from all over the world coming to us because of these videos, but they have to know where you are. Also, this is a really great chance to, like I said, brand your video, get your friends and, get the partners in there, and talk about where you're from. All right, so we saw a lot of different virtual engagement strategies between those two videos, a more professionally done video and a little more low-tech video. There's a lot of stuff that you can integrate. You might even have to come back and watch this video again to catch a lot of those and to see a lot more of them. You'll get the trained eye for watching some of these videos. You'll watch videos in different places and go, oh, I can do that. Being animated is a really big one, and being in front of interesting stuff is a really big one too. I'm trying to not be distracting, so I've got a white background in back of me. All right, let's talk about measuring this stuff. Why is it important? All right, so you've done all these wonderful engagement strategies during your video, but you're probably still wondering, am I getting through? And how will I know that I am? How do I know if I'm reaching my audience? So what are some different things that you can do to get your audience to respond in a way that you can see them? So let's talk about that next. You'll notice that when I shared these videos, I didn't share them full screen because you weren't just watching the content. Hopefully, if you go back, I want you to take a quick look, or if you're watching them on another device that you have, also look at the interface where these are posted. Most of these are on YouTube. That's about the easiest way to do it. And you'll see how many people viewed the video. Could be 3,000, could be 8,000, could be 15,000. How many people liked, a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Usually get more thumbs up for sure. And that number will be very, very different. You might get 8,000 views, but you get 8 likes. And then you can also scroll down to the comments too, right? You can see how many comments were there. And you're going to get even less of those. There's some reasons for that. So what we want people to do is when they watch this, we want them to respond. We want them to comment. We want them to like. We want them to share an emoji. We want to get we want them to subscribe. Maybe we'll even share a hashtag in our video, and we want them to use it and put it out on social media. So these are some things that we can see that they were watching the video. Awesome, right? Now, why is that important? If you're in person, you have the chance to see their body language. You can see that they're interested. You can see if they're rolling their eyes or looking at their watch or crossing their arms or leaning forward because they're interested or asking questions or answering your questions. Those are all great ways in person that we can see that they're interested in interacting. Can't do that with virtual, right? So we've got to rely on these other methods. So like I said, when you post it on YouTube, or when you post it through your website and they can go to YouTube to watch it, or if you post it on your social media, we're going to see some stuff. We're going to see some likes. We're going to see some views, right? We can also, if it's on our website, or if it's on Facebook, we can also do some tracking of analytics. So you'll notice that I put on QR codes. All those QR codes are trackable. I can see how many of you clicked that. We can see spikes in website traffic or social media traffic. We can see the next place they clicked. We can also give them a promotion. We can say, hey, you've watched this video, use this code when you're signing up for, registering for your next adventure. It's going to give you 10% off. So those are some products we can see them use, so we can know if they've watched our videos. Here's some truisms that are really important. These are what I want you to keep in mind. This is an anonymous format. We don't, unless they get back to us, we have no way of knowing if they actually watch. The more anonymous they are, the less they will outwardly participate in what you will want them to do. So we need to be as simple as we possibly can and as clear with what we want them to do. The more captive or captivated they are, the more interesting you make this, the more they're going to participate. They're going to watch more, they're going to comment more, they're going to like more if it's interesting. The more we ask them to do, the less they're going to do it. So if we ask them to come in and share their coupon code and speak to the ranger, they're not going to do all that stuff. We'll be amazed if they even come in, right? So keep your ask super, super simple. The more relevant it is to them, the more motivated they will be to do it. So if you give them a coupon code for the next time they're in, they're probably going to use it if they want to come to your site, if they're able to come to their site, come to your site. And here's the last one. The more time between the program and what you're asking them to do, the less engagement you will have. So if you watch a YouTube videos from 2014, you're a lot less likely to comment on that video because that person may have moved on. And you're probably not going to get a response out of that person. So if there's a lot of space, you won't get them coming back to you. So these are some things to think about. Again, we're on a short time frame here, so you might want to take a look at these again later on. But like I said, virtual, it's an anonymous platform. So they are, they don't have you looking at them, waiting for an answer, waiting for an interaction. They could watch for 30 seconds and be gone and you'd never know it. So looking at some of those analytics are going to be really helpful to you. How do I, am I doing an interesting engagement? Are they watching the whole time through? If you want to give them coupon codes, give them bribes. Hey, at the end, there's going to be a coupon code. That'll help them watch throughout as well. So those are some measurements for you. Keep those in mind. Okay, so this wouldn't be a video about virtual interpretation without, discussing the technical aspects of it. Again, this can be hours long discussion and how-tos. I don't have that kind of time. You can do a lot of how-tos on the internet for how to work different, equipment that you have. We're going to break this tech down in a couple simple ways. First is the recording gear. Your phone is plenty. It's amazing what we can do with the technology that we have in our own hands right now. Here's what I recommend. Do it first with what you have, and then start buying some gear to do it a little better. So do it on your phone, and you're going to find out that if you're 20 steps away, they can barely hear you. Somebody else in your agency that has a big booming voice is not going to be a problem. But then you buy a microphone. You can buy a whole kit: microphone, lighting, sound muffler, for under $30, and that includes a tripod and a gimbal, or a selfie stick. So the tech is fairly low priced anymore. It's getting cheaper and more professional all the time. But start where you are first, and then add tech to it. Okay, there's a couple really basic things though. Can they see you? And can they see what you're talking about? So make sure your focus is good. Cut down on background distractions, and make sure your lighting is good. Can they hear? Can they hear you? If they can't hear you, they can't see you. They're not going to be interested at all. Use a microphone, reduce those background noises, use common noises, common smells, common references for them. All right. So that's the recording part. Editing apps, there are tons and tons of free ones anymore. Your laptop probably came with one. They're getting, again, more user-friendly all the time. There's all kinds of help tutorial videos out there. Even just watching one or two is going to get you to a point where you can probably use it. Make sure to brand your work in your editing apps. Include those couple slides, that say your agency's name, your logo, your location, what your name is. If you put any words on the screen, make sure they're a little bit whited out in the background so you can actually see those words on the screen. If you use any big words or any jargon, define them. And you can add all that stuff when you're editing. Your distribution, you want this on YouTube, and then from YouTube, you're going to embed it on your site, or you're going to embed it on social media. And that gives you that other place of analytics to find out how people are interacting with that video. A couple general tips. Of course, there's a learning curve. It gets easier every time you do it. You get more savvy about it. You understand more. It looks better every time. You get better equipment and better apps all the time, right? Low tech is still very acceptable. Like I said, it's endearing, it's raw, it's very relevant to people, so it's totally okay. Shorter is far better. 1 to 2 minutes on Facebook is what they're looking for. Obviously, a lot of our videos won't fit into that, but make it as short as you can. The other one, have a script and practice it. Know what each of your slides are going to, what you want to say. Working off the cuff is probably not the best way to go. So, have your script, practice it, And you're going to take several runs at this, and that's okay. That's part of the learning curve. All right, so we've talked about some different engagements we can use during the program. We've talked about measuring their engagement back to us. We've talked a little bit about the tech, but here's the big question in interpretation. It's always the big question. So what? Why should I care? Why should I do this, Nikki? Because if you go dark during COVID, you haven't missed the boat, you've missed the arc. This is a sea change. This is huge. When we were forced to go to give up personal interaction, it really raised the bar on how we then act or connect personally. And so how that's happened in interpretation and environmental education is how then do we make these personal connections? We still keep it personal, even while we're doing this remotely, even while we're going virtually. If you've gone dark, you might have lost your job in COVID, and now you're looking for a new one. This is the new skill set you've got to have. So you need to remain relevant. If your agency has gone dark, they probably lost donors. They probably lost volunteers that may have gone somewhere else. They probably lost memberships. They need that money to be coming back. They need that fan base to be coming back. This is vital for your agency. That's where this return on investment is going to come from. You need to convince your boss. You know, if your boss actually needs convincing, and they're part of the dinosaurs then too, you know. But yeah, it takes hours. It takes hours to do your first video, and then it takes less time, and it takes less time, and it takes less time. But you're reaching people every time. And the more you do it, the more people you will reach, the more following you will get, the more people are going to follow your agency, the more they're going to follow the mission, the more they're going to follow the cause, the better position you are in to say, hey, I can make this happen, the more skill set you have. There's that old adage, the absence makes the heart grow fonder. It doesn't actually. Absence makes the heart go yonder, right? So a lot of our fan base they've got other things that they're doing. Our lives are even more complicated than were before. So remain relevant for you, remain relevant for your agency, remain relevant for your cause. That's where that return on investment is. I hope you've enjoyed all this. I'm going to be around for questions here at the end. And you can do this. You totally can. So I want to show you. I'm here to help you on this. Okay, a couple other videos that I want you to see. Actually, a couple web pages I want you to see. So the first one is National Association for Interpretation did create a course called Moving Forward in Interpretation. Talks about all this, talks about virtual interpretation. So even if you don't see yourself as an interpreter, you see yourself in EE, this is really, really helpful. Even if you just need to know how to be ADA accessible, we have a whole section on that. The nice thing about that webinar series is pick and choose. So there are some free ones in there, but you can also find some ones, you might have to pay a nominal fee for. Really, really helpful, fantastic course to go through. The other one is if you identify as an interpreter, we've got a certification for that. I teach that. Hopefully we'll see you. There are sometimes it's being taught in person. We have a great course virtually that I teach. There's a lot of other teachers too. Find a time that works for you. So that second QR code sends you to that information, and there's a calendar. You can pick a class that works for you. If you have any questions beyond what we're doing here at this virtual event, here's my email, my website. I haven't updated the website in quite a while, sorry, but the email's still good. And always happy to chat and share some ideas. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and we'll talk with you soon.